Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the 8-Bit Retro Refix. Retro Refix? Well, if you check my description, it does say that I repair anything from 70s, 80s computers, retro systems, right up until today's system. So Alan sent me in a PS5 with the blue light of death. So what happens with this PS5 is, you switch the power on, it lights up the blue for 1 second and shuts down solid. So we're going to take a look at this and see if we can repair his PS5 for him. I've never been inside one of these before, so let's get to it. So I've stripped down this PS5 and we are down to the board. I have already done this PS5 and I've repaired it already, so I know it's up and running. I've never had a chance to have a player inside a PS5, so this is the first one that I'd ever been inside. So what we checked first was, let's go down and have a look. So what I check first of all is put my multimeter across here to check the continuity to see if there's any shorts on the power. On the motherboard, on the power supply should I say, I checked there and we were getting a nice 12 volts through there. So I knew we were getting 12 volts through. So what I did from there on, because we moved straight up here into this fusible area around here, I started to test. So I checked here and I checked here. And of course we've got continuity because these are pretty much like a coil. And I checked across that one and I checked across that one, and yeah, sure enough, it's got a short across there. So I checked across these little capacitors on here as well, and they were shorted too. So we don't actually know which it was going to be. We could have, bring that a bit closer, it could be this one little cap here that's making it look like it's all shorted. It could be this chip up here that's causing that. It could be quite a lot of things, to be honest. It could be anything around here. It could also be on the flip side of the board as well, because as you can see, these little holes around here, they transfer through to the other side of the board. So yes, the other side of the board had shorts on them too. So what I did to start with was, I decided I was going to remove this coil, so I took that away. So we could isolate this side here, around his side, and I took that off because if you multimeter test there and multimeter test there, you will be able to see, it'll give you a buzz across there because it's basically like a coil. So I removed that, and I removed this one as well, and then I checked for continuity again, and we still had continuity around here. Now there's two things that you can do. You can either put something like isopropyl alcohol all around the area and inject some voltage into the power rail and see which one dries out easier. Or if you've got a thermal camera, which I don't have, if you were to put a thermal camera on, you would see one of these capacitors glowing, or one of these capacitors, or one of these capacitors, or something. You would see something glowing really quickly to tell you exactly which one was faulty. So with these removed, I still had a short across this area here. It could be elsewhere, it could be on the back side of the board. So what I did to start with was, I removed all of them capacitors straight off the board, and I tested from the continuity from there to here, and the short had gone. So it looks like that we actually found it. So once I got these off, I tested them again, and sure enough, this one here was short. So I measured the other I measured the other three, and I found that these were a 22 UF, 22 UF and a 22 UF. I don't know what that is, but of course it's shorted. So I can only presume, because there's no schematics for PS5s, I can only presume that that will be a 22 UF as well. So why would they do that? Why would they put 22 UFs or 25 UFs or whatever you want to call it? Why would you put 4 in a row like that? They all go to the same place. So the only thing I could possibly think of was that it's cheaper. It might only be 0.05 of a pence cheaper than putting a 100 UF capacitor on there. That's the only thing I can think of. So I just thought, well, you know what? I ain't got any of these 22 UFs. I haven't got a donor board to be able to steal it off and put it on like you watch most of the videos that show you that. So what I actually did is I took all these off and I put I scraped back a bit of solder mask over here and I scraped a bit of solder mask back here, and I put a 1 UF capacitor straight across the top of there. So basically it's got the same as what 4 capacitors are doing, but only got 1. So then we started to rebuild it. I put this back on and I put this back on and I checked for continuity again, and lo and behold, we don't have any continuity anymore on this board. I did continue and we had a look elsewhere. So anything that you see with an F usually is like you will see as a fuse. So in here there'll be only little tiny little fuses. They will be kicking about somewhere, probably one over here or these 2 here, and they can blow. So you've just basically got to check. I looked up here and it was shorted across here, and everywhere you look on the board there's another F there. Look, you see a couple of capacitors jumping across there to feed that in there. So you could have a fault up there if you they're all over the place, to be fair. Anything with an F, look, it could be over here. It could be on the RF box on the other side. You've got another F here, look, it could be here for the fuse on the power rail for over there. But thankfully I hit it right on the nail on the head. I mean, I could have removed these capacitors and we could have still had a short, and I would have had to flip the board then and proceed. I mean, it could have been one of these chips, could have been one of these chips, it could have been that. There's endless amounts of things that it could possibly be. So I think on this occasion I actually felt lucky. I'd looked on YouTube and I've watched quite a few videos on YouTube about PS5's 1 second blue lights. And a lot of the time it came down to this here. So F7501 is the area that I were mainly wanting to look at. And thankfully, when I did that, it was in that area. So thankfully, the PS5 is put back together now. It has been a while. Alan did send it to me. Alan sent me lots of things in the past, i.e. Commodore 64s and things like that to repair for him. I did say to him, I have never looked at a PS5 before. I will have a look for him because I used to repair Xbox 360s and Xbox Ones, so I didn't mind having a look at it as a first attempt. I would have videoed it, the actual procedure of what I did on that to try and find them faults. But like I said in the beginning of the video, I didn't want to do it. I didn't know whether I could fix it. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't want to look like an ass. But you never know, do you? So thankfully, that's what it was. It was all down to that little capacitor. That little bad boy right there. And I've been reading up on these a lot just lately. Obviously we're wanting to repair this one for Alan. And I have found that the PS5s are really bad for capacitor failure. So I don't know whether they're really cheap items. I don't know whether they just grabbed what they could during COVID, or whatever they've done. But I've never seen capacitors blown on Xbox Ones. I've never seen capacitors blown on 360s. I've never seen capacitors blown on anything else other than the PS5s. I could be wrong. If I am, drop me a comment. But yeah. So that's it, we fixed it, and it's up and running. So I'll show you a couple of pictures of that. I'll show you how tiny these little capacitors are. I mean, they don't look big on your TV screen, but these things are about 1/4 of a grain of rice. if not smaller, but you'll see that with the cotton bud up against it in these pictures that I'm going to show you now. So that's the PS5 that got sent in to me as it were. When I opened it up, somebody had already been inside it. As you can see, the security seal's gone. There's screws missing. There's screws out of the fan housing that were missing. And there you go, it's up and it's running again. I was quite surprised, and I'm quite happy and I'm chuffed to bits that I've actually got this repaired. And Alan can give his daughter a PS5 back because she's screaming for it. So there's the capacitors. So excuse my dirty nail, but they are the capacitors that I took off. They're just 2 of them, but you can see how tiny they are. And again, that's the area that we were working with, and that was the 4 capacitors that I removed. So there you go, you can see that the PS5 is now up and running. Everything seems to be all okay. I've updated it to the latest firmware because it were asking for that. GTA 5 got updated. I wanted to have a bit of a play on something, but it did work. I played on GTA, but it's not been paid for, so it's only got the online service to that. Spider-Man again, all these lot. Cold War, let's have a look at that one. Have a quick look, show you it starting up. Oh, it's got no internet connection, so I can't show you that one. It won't let me play that. Is there something that we can play? They're all online games. Let's see if there's out in the library. Yeah, there's not much in here that we can look at and play now. These are locked out. Most of the games that are on here are running. But you can see the PS5's up and running again. And that's absolutely cracking stuff. And that's what we wanted. So thank you for sending that in, Alan. I hope your daughter's happy with it. She's all back up and running. Well, yeah. What can I say? Stupid capacitors. Now, these are well known on the PS5 for capacitors being blown. There's no reason for them. They're just crap, to be fair. To be quite blunt. I've repaired so many things in my time, and I've never known systems to be blowing capacitors. Now, I mentioned in the previous video that I've repaired Xboxes, 360s, PS3s, all sorts of things in the past, and I've never had capacitor issues. Now, obviously we've not ever been inside one of these before. I wanted to know how to strip them down, what to look for, so I've watched quite a lot of YouTube videos, to be fair, to find out what it was. So my first protocol was that area F7501, which was quite lucky to find it straight away like that. I could have injected voltage and used a thermal camera, but I don't have one of them. I could have put IPA over it and then injected voltage and see which capacitor dried out the quickest. That would have just told me exactly which capacitor it was itself. But there were only one that were blown. So, but there you go. I don't just repair retro systems. And that's it for this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's a little short one, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye!